Und ich freue mich, direkt unsere erste Rednerin vorzustellen. Ihr Name ist Jill Abramson. Sie ist die Chefredaktorin der New York Times. Und ja, die Erste zu sein, das Motto, das zieht sich ja eigentlich wie ein roter Faden durch ihr Leben und durch ihre Karriere in der Medienwelt. Denn sie ist die erste Frau an der Spitze in der 160-jährigen Geschichte der New York Times. Die erste Frau als Chefredakteurin einer großen US-Zeitung. Und deswegen hat sie passenderweise auch den Spitznamen The First Lady of the Grey Lady erhalten. Das Forbes-Magazin in den USA hat sie letztes Jahr zur 12. wichtigsten Frau der Welt ernannt. Und viele sagen, sie ist nicht nur die wichtigste Frau in der Medienwelt, nein, sie ist auch die wichtigste Medienpersönlichkeit weltweit. Nicht nur bei der Besetzung des Chefsessels ist die New York Times oder hat die New York Times eine Vorreiterrolle, nein, auch bei der Einführung der Paywall ist sie ganz vorne mit dabei und wir freuen uns jetzt mehr über den Erfolg der Paywall zu hören, aber auch zum Thema Journalismus von morgen. Herzlich willkommen, welcome Jill Abramson, Chefredakteurin der New York Times.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have spoken at a number of media conferences over the past few years, and they tend to be filled with what I call too much gloom and doom kind of talk, and somewhat hand-wringing ways people say, "Will newspapers survive? What will happen to broadcast journalism?" And I think that these are really not the right questions. And I'm very happy that the SwissMediaForum is more focused on, dealing with the here and now and finding and sharing ways to get through the digital transition and reach the other side of it safely. So I'm very happy to be here. I understand it's your second gathering, and I couldn't be more pleased to join you today. When I thought about what I would talk about, I thought about during President Reagan's time in office, one of his best speechwriters wrote a very good book about the political transformation of that time, and it was called What I Saw at the Revolution. So I'm going to adapt that a little bit and share with you today what I'm seeing in the digital revolution that we're going through from the vantage point of the New York Times. And I thought I'd begin by taking you through a very recent day that stands out to me as executive editor as a fairly typical day at the New York Times. We found out at about 7 a.m. that morning that President Obama would be giving a television interview where he was going to announce a major policy change. And it was, as I said, almost dawn, a little past, and the printed newspaper that had arrived by delivery to people's homes did not have a hint of this fact that the president was about to announce a policy shift. But we're now a 24-hour news operation. And our White House correspondents were pretty sure when they heard about the interview that President Obama would be announcing something to do with same-sex marriage. And that was both from their sources, which are excellent, but it's also because Vice President Biden, just a few days earlier on another television show in Washington, had dropped what we in the press often call a Joe bomb. That's Joe for Joe Biden. And he had announced that he was endorsing same-sex marriage. And so the betting by our reporters was that President Obama was likely to announce something similar so that he and the vice president would be in line. And because we were fairly sure and had good sourcing on this, very early in the morning we had several stories on this, leading nytimes.com, our website. And from the beginning, starting that early in the morning, our reporters in Washington, our White House correspondents, and our technology crew were gearing up because they figured if indeed the president was going to be endorsing same-sex marriage, there would be a lot of reaction, a lot of commentary in the social media space, lots of interesting people tweeting about the issue. And we wanted to be in a position to not only publish our journalism as quickly as possible and as thoroughly as possible, but to include all of this in our report. And we've developed something called the news dashboard to do this. And we actually have sold the template for our dashboard to other news organizations. It allows us to showcase stories, blog items, tweets, and reaction around the web, including a rotating display of reader comments. And right after Obama made his announcement, we had several stories, a news analysis, and other features leading our website. But then we went out on a limb. Our video team gathered to discuss doing a live show. We had only tried this once before, the previous day. By 4:30, we went live, drawing 55,000 streams. Traffic to our site was off the charts. Nearly 30,000 readers posted comments, and that was more than for the death of bin Laden, which was our previous record. I had been thinking about the front page a little bit while I was trying to conduct this online symphony. For the news to be fresh the next morning, I asked a team of investigative journalists to work with our White House correspondents so that we could get what I always call a behind-the-scenes story. I like the story behind the story. I wanted to be able to take readers behind the curtain to find out what had really gone on inside the White House, who had talked to the president, who had influenced him, how he had made up his mind, and then how the White House had orchestrated this interview where he had shortly before announced his new position. We actually had on staff a correspondent based in California who had covered the White House, who had written a book that was an entire history of the gay rights movement in the United States. And for the next day's newspaper, he wrote a brilliant piece for the front page analyzing the impact of the president's new policy on the many court cases involving same-sex marriage. This day, which was really not at all unusual, reflected the New York Times recipe of standout quality journalism, which involves years of attention to the web and some innovation on the fly. Our news report is deep, broad, and of singular quality. Sources bring their stories to us because they're constantly telling me, I'm talking to the Times because no one else does the kind of journalism you do. We embrace new platforms and technology. We experiment boldly. To say this is a challenging time for our industry is an understatement. The secular changes, the fast transition to digital, have been punishing, and finding a business model that supports quality journalism has been equally challenging. But the Times has managed through this disruption and emerged stronger than many of our competitors. We have never veered from our core business, delivering quality news and information. Our competitors in the US have cut their newsrooms savagely. The news operations of the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times, to name only two, are radically smaller than they were. even 5 years ago. I was just in the city of New Orleans last week. I was there the day the city paper there, called the Times-Picayune, announced that they were cutting back print publication to just 3 days a week, and they'd be mainly online, but still reducing their newsroom by about a third. So we have not adopted a strategy of trying to cut our way to profits, and I think it has redounded to our benefit. The New York Times has a robust newsroom of 1,150 journalists, and it's about the same. This is about the same size we were a decade ago. So how have we sustained this? First, we made a lasting bet that quality journalism is worth asking readers to pay for, online as well as in print. Although we have experienced secular declines in advertising and some constriction in circulation in print, the number of people who subscribe get home delivery of the New York Times for 2 years or more, at which point we consider them pretty addicted to our product. That number has actually grown a bit over the past 2 years. And we price our newspaper aggressively. A home delivery yearly subscription costs more than $700 a year. So we have 850,000 of these people who have been signed up for 2 years or more in print, and we see no signs of them being anywhere near ready to give up on the print newspaper. So we've kept our print products very strong. As many of you know, we've instituted a digital subscription plan over a year ago, charging our heaviest users a monthly fee. But it's a flexible plan. People who look at our articles and come from other sites or other links, or just want to see the top stories, don't have to pay anything. This allows us to remain a vital part of the open web, but it has also added a second stream to our digital revenues, a significant one. So far, our numbers online have exceeded our targets, and there's been a side benefit too. Because home delivery print subscribers get all access to our reports on every digital platform. That's phones, tablets, and laptops. But we found that in order to get that all access pass, a lot of people signed up for home delivery of the Sunday paper. So we've seen an uptick in our Sunday circulations. So flexibility is very much the centerpiece of our digital subscription plan. And what supports and makes those numbers rosier than we had thought they would be in the beginning is that quality journalism is something that our readers are willing to pay for. So what is my definition of this singular quality journalism? I'll cite just a few examples. We're in the middle of doing a series on what we call the Apple economy, examining the more problematic aspects of its global operations, including offshore manufacturing that doesn't contribute new jobs in the US. We recently published an expose on Walmart's bribing officials in Mexico, its second biggest market. We stay on other stories when others retreat. We kept an investigative reporter focused on Haiti and just exposed that a cholera epidemic there was actually sparked by UN aid workers. Corruption in China, the hacking scandal in Britain. We've had exclusives on all of these international stories. We hold global, powerful institutions accountable. We are also fortunate to be owned by a family that has never wavered from supporting this quality journalism. Arthur Sulzberger Jr., our publisher and chairman, was actually prescient many years ago when he declared that the New York Times was platform neutral. A lot of people made fun of him for saying that, but it was absolutely right. and it meant that the Times was very prepared, more prepared than our competitors for the digital transition. During the